Serving southern New Mexico, this is the award-winning KRWG-TV News 22, where news matters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Noah Padaka.
And I'm AC Hokit. Cowboys for Trump co-founder is celebrating a rare win in court. Coy Griffin was found not guilty yesterday of a misdemeanor charge of failing to register a political committee. He was previously convicted of a misdemeanor of entering restricted U.S. Capitol grounds without going inside the building on January 6, 2020. That conviction bars him from holding elected office, which resulted in him being kicked off the Otero County Commission.
Police are investigating a deadly crash that occurred around 5 this morning on Highway 26 between Deming and Hatch. 3 people died when 2 semis collided head-on. Highway 26 was closed for much of the day. New Mexico State Police are not saying if weather was a factor in the crash. The threat of bad weather this morning did force New Mexico State University, Doniana Community College, Las Cruces Public Schools, and several organizations to start a couple of hours late. Jackie, I don't know about you, but my hair got a little bit ruffled today in the winds. What can you tell us about those conditions?
My hair also got a little ruffled in the wind also, Noah. So as you can see, we have some partly cloudy skies and also some windy skies as well. We have a temperature of 47 degrees with winds traveling 23 miles per hour, a humidity at 29%, a dew point at 16 degrees, and a barometer at 29.80 inches. Now also today we had a high of 50 with a low of 28, but our average was at 67 degrees. Looking at our record temps, over in 2016 we had a record high of 82 degrees, and over in 1961, we had a record low of 22 degrees. We have had no rainfall today, so that leaves our yearly rainfall at 0.51 inches. Now, back to the desk for more news.
Thanks, Jackie. After decades of challenges, it seems the Mexican gray wolf is making progress in returning to New Mexico. The reintroduction of the wolf started in the 1970s with only 7 animals. Today, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department says there are 241 in the Gila National Forest. That's double the number since 2017. The biggest challenge has been ranchers saying that they are a threat to their livestock and livelihoods. Environmentalists say that another threat is the limited genetic pool. While ranchers worry about the wolves killing their cattle, the U.S. Forest Service has finished a cattle killing operation of their own. At the end of February, the Forest Service shot 19 feral cows in the Gila. The service plans to continue eradicating the cattle because of the threat they pose to the Gila River environment. Researchers have generally opposed the operation, claiming the Forest Service violated some of their own policies, and rounding the cattle up and taking them away would have been much more humane.
Stay tuned. Jackie will be back with your national forecast, and later, Jose will have the scoop on sports.
But first, have you ever seen 2 planets kiss? More on that when News 22 continues. Welcome back. You're watching News 22 Thursday,
where news matters.
Have you ever seen 2 planets kiss? If not, now's your chance. Tonight, Jupiter and Venus will appear very close to each other in the night sky. That's because the planets will be in conjunction with each other as they make their trip around the sun. News 22 took a trip to the astronomy building to find out what tonight's event will look like.
Venus and Jupiter are the 2 most, they are the 2 brightest objects in the sky after the moon, right? The moon and the sun, of course. It's the sun, the moon, Venus, and Jupiter. Both of them are extremely bright on their own. When they are together in the sky, it's a show.
There will be no need for a telescope, and the best time for viewing is earlier on in the evening, so after the newscast, take a trip outside to check it out. Jackie, there's no wind in space, certainly windy down here. What can you tell us?
So there may not be no wind in space, but there's definitely wind in other places. As you can see over in Texas and over in Arkansas, we are going to be seeing some possible tornado threats. So what that means for Waco, Dallas, Idabel, Little Rock, Shreveport, Greenville, and Memphis means that for all these little black dots is that they're going to be getting hit with the worst of these tornadoes. So moving on to my next map, you're going to see the outlash that's going to be coming from these tornadoes. So we're going to get some possible flooding. We're going to be getting some possible flooding throughout Arkansas. So as you can see over for Fort Smith, Little Rock, Texarkana, and over up to Paducah, they're going to be getting some very likely possible threats of flooding. Now, Moving into my next map, moving on over to Friday, we're going to be seeing some possible severe thunderstorm threats also. So these are mainly going to happen over in Tennessee and Kentucky. So that means for Louisville and Nashville, make sure that you stay on the lookout and you're aware of what's going on. Now, moving on to my next map, we're also going to be seeing some rainfall following those weathers also. So what that means is over in for Atoka, Fort Smith, West Plains, and Louisville, they're going to be getting 2 to 3 inches of snow. We have Little Rock and Dallas getting 1 to 2 inches. We have Huntsville and Nashville also getting an inch. We have Shreveport and Birmingham Shreveport and Atlanta getting ½ an inch, and Jackson and Houston getting 1/10 of an inch of rain. Now it's time to look at your national temperatures. Now for Boise, we have 23 degrees. We have Salt Lake City at 30 degrees, and we have Phoenix at 40 degrees. And I'll be back with your local temperatures. That's all for your national. And we're back, and it's time to take a look at your local temperatures here in New Mexico. Over in Farmington, we're reaching 47 degrees. Over in Gallup, we're reaching 38 degrees. Albuquerque hitting 36 degrees. Socorro hitting 47. Ruidoso hitting 34. Roswell hitting 55. And Deming hitting 44 degrees. Looking at tomorrow's temperatures in New Mexico, Farmington is going to stay at 47 degrees, and Santa Fe is going to be at 47 degrees as well. Albuquerque hitting 55, and Socorro hitting 59. We have Ruidoso hitting 52 degrees, and Roswell hitting 70 degrees. Las Cruces will stay at 66, and Deming will stay at 60 degrees. It's time to take a look over in Alamogordo. We have a low of 30 with a high of 61. Over in TRC, we should have some low clear skies with a low temperature of 30 and a high of 63. Over in Silver City, we should have a low of 23 and a high of 53. And here in the city of Cruces, we should have a low of 28 and a high of 66. I'll be back later in the show with your 5-day.
Thanks, Jackie. Students at one university of Wisconsin campus can take a class that's for the dogs, and that's literally. It's called Animal Behavior, and it's all about figuring out how smart man's best friend actually is. Maria Blow has the story.
At Embark in Eau Claire, more than 20 UW Eau Claire students like Tia Rivara are getting the chance to work with man's best friend. One of the goals of this class, which is called Animal Behavior, is to see how dogs process information. That's something Rivara hopes to use with her own pet.
My family is trying to get my dog to become a service dog, so using these tests would be really helpful in like knowing how to train my dog and putting my knowledge in experiments and in science into like training my own little dog at home.
As part of these tests, 35 to 40 dogs try to find treats under certain conditions.
We look at 4 different levels of cognition. The first is pretty simple. We put a treat in a bucket and we ask whether a dog can see us doing that and go to the correct bucket. Each of them are set up as a choice test, so they have 3 buckets and they have to choose the right one.
Dr. Jennifer Smith with UWEC is the professor behind the class. She says each test is a bit different, looking at aspects of how dogs understand the world around them. Her favorite one is where a person points to the bucket with the treat.
A lot of dogs that have a high pack drive or prey drive or are working dogs, they'll often look at an owner and then go directly to solve that task. And it turns out that those dogs are better than chimpanzees at recognizing how well humans communicate to each other.
When all these tests are done, Smith students will take the data they collect and try to answer questions they come up with, like the impact age has on how well a dog performs. For those who train dogs, like Heather Mashevsky, the owner of Embark, they're excited for what these kinds of insight into our four-legged friends can mean for working with them.
I think it's so good to be able to kind of have some information on how dogs learn so that we can look at training in a different light so that we understand our learner a little bit better.
And by doing that, we might just be able to answer the question, how smart is your dog?
And let's kick it over to Jose with a look at your sports.
Thanks, Noah. Coming up in sports, NMSU is losing another coach. You can toss that remote because News22 Sports is next.
This is KRWG-TV News 22 Sports.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Munoz, and let's talk sports. The Aggie baseball team announced a change in the coaching staff. Fourth-year head coach Mike Kirby has been relieved of his position as the head coach. The Aggies' record under Kirby was 56-79, including the 2022 WAC Tournament Championship. The decision comes from a 0-7 start to the season, marking the second worst start since 2015 when they lost 8 in a row. Assistant coach Keith Zuniga has been anointed the role of interim head coach as the Aggies look towards their 3-game homestand against the University of Pacific starting on Friday at 6. The NMSU women's tennis will be on the road for the first time since January. They will be traveling to Las Vegas to take on UNLV and Idaho State on back-to-back days. The first match will be on Friday at 11, facing undefeated UNLV, and on Saturday at 11, playing against Idaho State. The Aggies are looking to bounce back from falling 6-1 to New Mexico in their recent outing. After their road trip this weekend, they returned to the action, hosting I-10 rival UTEP on March 10th at the NM State Tennis Center. The NMSU women's basketball team will be wrapping up their season on the road in Huntsville, Texas against Sam Houston. The Aggies are coming off a defeat to Stephen F. Austin 62-47. Despite their previous loss, the Aggies have secured a spot in the WAC tournament in Las Vegas. As of now, the Aggies are currently in the 7th seed, awaiting their opponent, which will be known as soon as Friday. The game is set at 5:30 and is streaming on ESPN+. This weekend, the high school state basketball tournament tips off with several Las Cruces schools hosting in hopes to reach the finals. For the boys, number 5 seed Oregon Mountain will play Hobbs on Saturday, while number 14 seed Las Cruces will play at Las Lunas. As for the girls, 6-seeded Centennial will face off against district rival 11 seed Oregon Mountain, while 7 seed Las Cruces will host Clovis, and 12 seed Mayfield will travel to La Cueva. And that's all for sports tonight. Join us for more sports action next week. Still ahead on News 22, Jackie will be back to take a look at your 5-day weather forecast.
Let's take a look at our top stories. Police are investigating a deadly crash that occurred around 5 o'clock this morning on Highway 26 between Deming and Hatch. The Mexican gray wolf is making progress in returning into New Mexico. There are 241 in the Gila National Forest. Coy Griffin was found not guilty yesterday of a misdemeanor charge of failing to register a political committee.
And Jackie, maybe the weather will allow us to read a book outside this weekend.
And you know, Noah, that does seem like a possibility. Since Friday and Saturday, it does seem to be pretty sunny outside. Overall, for the 5-day, we should be seeing the highs in the 60s and the 70s and the lows in the 30s and the 40s. That's all for your 5-day.
Beautiful weather ahead, and that's all for News 22 Thursday. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Make sure to tune in next week for more news. I'm Noah Apodaca.
And I'm AC Hokett, and from the whole News 22 team, Noah, Jackie, Jose, and myself, good night.